What would you like your title to be in the podcast?
Oh, you mean like what this show is titled or my title?
Your title. What is your title?
Wife Extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's true. It's true.
Unfiltered with Matt Farnsworth.
Okay. Let me just try to put on my, sort of like different face. I'm not used to having someone on the show like with me ever sitting with me, which is kind of
It's awkward.
it's a great test because I haven't done it. Yeah, here we are. You're on Unfiltered with me and my wife, Amber. We decided that it would be interesting to, instead of seeing me with my brutish tattoos and my harsh demeanor at times, to bring in some softness and light into the equation and sort of get a perspective on sobriety. You all know that obviously I talk about sobriety a lot. It's important to me. Let's just define sober. Let's define it. Sober is not having an intoxicated state of being. I've got a new sobriety program that I'm releasing. Actually, It's just been released. Yes.
Excellent.
Stay sober.
Check it out. It's amazing.
We did a lot of work. Like I did a tremendous amount of work on this.
He poured his heart and soul into that, I will say. And he's really, really wanting people to get sober.
Yeah. So it's a good program. It's 8 months of just pouring my, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night into it. And I just kind of wanted to have Amber on because
you were very instrumental in getting me sober.
I helped her get sober. I mean, I did and I didn't. So when we met, I had gotten sober. I'd been sober about, what had it been? About 2 years, 3 years, 2?
Said it was 3. I think it was 3.
Well, yeah, because we didn't meet until 2018.
Right.
And then I got sober in 2014. So it was almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming up on 9 years.
Mm-hmm. And I'm almost at 5.
Yeah. So she's got 5 years.
Almost.
And she wasn't she wasn't a huge drinker around me, but when we first started dating, actually, you thought it would be boring. We had a date, but it wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date. It was just like a hangout.
Okay.
You mean the dinner? The shabu dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just hanging out. Well, that's how I took it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think much of it.
Yeah,
but
I didn't either. And then you told me your story, the whole story, for the most part. And I was pretty impressed because there were a lot of similarities in your story and my story. I think we collided in that way.
But you were still into, having the warm hug, the drink that you enjoyed.
I was still an alcoholic. Don't be shy. I was an alcoholic.
Okay, so people out there people that they're working with that are alcoholics, your spouse, you want them to quit drinking. You're not going to do it by browbeating them and telling them they really shouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work.
I just learned from osmosis. I saw that. I mean, I have to admit, in the beginning, I thought there was no way that I could date somebody that was sober. I was really questioning that. I really thought that was going to be boring. But you were really exciting. You went out there and you did a lot of fun things with me to show me that. And I didn't drink at any of those moments. So I was like, hey, you can.
Well, you drank when we went to the fair. You had a glass of wine.
That was our first,
when we went out to an actual event.
Date, right?
Yeah. But you were used to doing that. You were used to it. And it was just one glass. It wasn't like a big deal, but it changed you. Like you were different.
Well, and trust me when I say that I wanted more than just one, but I was trying to be good in front of you and act like I was under control, but I really wasn't.
I've been there. I mean, I think we've all been there.
I really wanted 4 or 5 glasses of wine while we were there because they were this big, but.
Yeah, at the fair, they charge $30 for 2 ounces of wine. So that was 4 or 5 days in though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We kind of started dating, we kind of went to that dinner and then never separated.
Well, I mean, backstory is I contacted you as a personal trainer.
I wasn't going to tell that because
so I fell in love with my personal trainer. It's very cliche.
But I never brought it up. So for those of you that are working with somebody and you're like, okay, I'm in love with this person. They're fantastic. They're not really going over the top. I mean, this person's not getting trashed and calling me names and driving the car and crashing it. And she wasn't wrecking her life with alcohol.
No, I knew that it needed to be brought down at best at the time.
But let's be realistic. And you may or may not want to say this, but You've had big issues in your life prior to meeting me. You were tame in front of me, but what I have heard and what I have seen in the past is blackout drunk, really crazy stuff.
I needed to have alcohol in order to have fun. And I'm sure a lot of other alcoholics can kind of relate to the same.
Hold on. Wrong pipe. Okay.
They can kind of relate to the saying that I never really fit in. I never really felt like myself. And I always thought that I was more friendly and, fun and energetic if I had had a couple of drinks, because I just really wasn't comfortable in my skin, but I'd never allowed myself to get that way because I had been drinking since I was 21. I didn't drink a lot before 21. I didn't have the fake ID. I didn't do a lot of that. There were a couple of house parties that I went to, after high school, that I'd have a couple drinks, but I'd never get drunk or anything like that. But 21 was where I started hitting it pretty hard and going to clubs and ruined my life.
Wouldn't you say, though, that a lot of the choices that we make in our life, like, so I know, because I know you, I know there's choices that you made that were, how do I say this without bringing anything really personal up?
Fueled by alcohol.
So you're
a party. I just wanted a perpetual party. I wanted to have fun for like the rest of my life, drinking alcohol and blissfully unaware of reality.
Yeah. So in a sense, you were married to a party.
I was married to a party. Yeah.
And that really didn't work out very well because you have to have love. And so alcohol kind of, I think, for me, it removes that component. Like, we don't need to have love if we have fun. If we have this divisive chemical that's going to make us feel like we're at least having pseudo fun when we're with someone, then we're okay. I mean, how many of us have out there been with somebody that they wouldn't have been with, or been intimate with somebody that they never would have been with if they hadn't had alcohol? They would never have done it. You would never have done it if you didn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
It happens.
For me, that was just like 20 years.
Yeah. I get you. I did
pretty
the same
much
thing. Yeah.
20 years of my life. I can look back and pretty much say, I'm not going to blame the alcohol. That was me. That was me drinking it. It was me partaking in that. That was me wanting to have fun all the time. And I think it's emotionally stunted me. I think I wasn't able to process even big questions like, who should I marry and when should I have children and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of like floated through life unaware and not dealing with it like I am now.
For you. So you used it as a social lubricant, a personal relationship lubricant. It got you through the day.
Alcohol allowed me to work through that, I thought, and get to the other side where people are like, oh my gosh, you're fun. And I
used to get that too.
You're like, this and you're that. And I'm like, oh, I like this way of people are, that people are perceiving me. It's a lot easier than hearing, oh man, I thought you were such a B when I first met you.
You have to kind of be indoctrinated into it. So instead of just accepting that, hey, you're this person, you look this certain way, you're blessed with that, go with it. Use it.
I thought
instead,
it was a curse.
Yeah, you try to fit in, like I tried to fit which in. Is so silly. But our parents have a lot of leverage in this department of teaching us what our value, right?
Be nice to everybody.
And I agree with that to a certain extent.
Yeah, but I befriended people that literally told me from the very get-go, oh my gosh, I thought that you were such a B the first time I met you. So they said that to me. I thought you were a B. And I was like, let's be friends.
Yeah, instead of like,
challenge accepted.
Yeah, like
I'm going to prove to you I'm not one.
So
how stupid.
So you would go and drink with these people. So alcohol kept you in this. So as we met, let's get back to you and I.
Okay.
We're digressing into earlier years here. Let's go to you and me because really you did it. Like let's just be honest. You were an alcoholic.
I was beyond that.
I know.
Let's confess here. The full shebangy is prescription drug and alcohol abuse, and mixing them, in my opinion, I guess, was even better. I mean, if the bottle said "do not mix with alcohol," that was like, it's on.
A challenge to try and beat the system of big pharma.
This means I'm really going to feel good.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't want to laugh. That was not. It's not the right time to laugh at that. But that's how ridiculous I had gotten.
Well, there's a lot of people out there in a lot of pain, and so I just want to say that that's not the way. You don't want to take that advice. It's not fun. Mm-mm. If I could do it all over again, I would never have picked up a drink. I picked up my first drink at 14. I threw up. I kept doing it, and it was through trauma. There was problems that I had, with teachers and really deep stuff. But her and I met, and she was drinking a little bit. She was fighting it, but I just kept being positive with her. I was really like just kind of that shoulder for you. Yeah. I think in the beginning.
You were cute because I would be like, I just want one glass of wine. I just really need that warm hug. And you'd be like, give me that look like, I guess. But it was parental.
I've heard about your past, and I'm like, okay, I never came out and said, you're an alcoholic, you need to stop.
Well, one night you did.
But it was after.
It was way after.
Okay, so that was because one night at Thanksgiving with your mom there, you managed to pound almost a bottle of wine. Your face blew up. You were bloated. You looked like you'd been stung by a bee.
My eyes
you could
were
hardly breathe.
Even.
Yeah, you were a wreck. And the next day you were like, not there.
Yeah.
You were not there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, is this finally going to be, because she'd never gotten that smashed in front of me before.
No, I don't think so.
And so you were a little bit smashed, and the night didn't go like it normally did. Normally we have this really great night of, we hang out, we're watching TV, all this stuff, right? We got like this routine, and that routine was gone. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, I'm just going to kind of roll over, put the pillow over my head and just go to sleep because she's done. She was passed out. And so the next day you were up, and that was when you started getting the tremendous anxiety.
Mm-hmm. I started noticing it because there were long pauses in between drinking. So it was like I would go, a month without drinking, and then I would have that glass of wine, and then I'd be like, wow, I'm really messed up. Like I would have the headache. I'd be trembling, like that feeling of like trembling with anxiety, like the flutter in the stomach was so harsh that you were like shaking, almost like a caffeine shake.
So we know that the cortisol levels get spiked. So if you're a person that hasn't had a drink in a month, you drink, throughout that entire month, at least for the first 2 weeks, your cortisol levels are going to spike. You don't have to drink every day for it to be a huge issue for your health. So she'd start to get on track, I would assume, where you're feeling like you're sleeping better, things are going better. Mm-hmm. You have this big Thanksgiving, get smashed moment.
Yes.
And then everything kind of just came into focus, didn't it?
Yeah, I started to notice the real physical effects of the alcohol. Mentally, not yet. I think I was still kind of riding the wet brainwave. Mm-hmm. But, and then it took me a couple more months. And I remember I told you at one point, like, I think I'm just going to stop. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just going to stop drinking because I'm noticing that I'm just not treating me the same. It's not even giving me the warmth and the niceness. I actually I didn't feel good. And so I stopped June. So it still took me a little while, but completely stopped in June of 2019.
And I remember you for a month or two, maybe a year, saying, I'd really love a glass of wine. There were times you'd be like, that wine. You'd see it on TV. It looks so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I would think about all of the things that had gotten me to that point, and it just wasn't worth it to continue on that track. And plus, we have kids, and I wanted to set a good example for them. And I saw what an example you were to your children after falling your fall. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be that for the kids too, because, eventually we ended up having your kids 24/7. Yeah. And then
much later,
my kids were intermittent. But now we have the older ones 24/7. And I knew that was a big responsibility being a step parent. And I didn't want anything kind of like shrouding that or getting in the way of that. And I knew that the alcohol was doing that.
There's a statistic out there, and I believe it's relevant now. Mm-hmm. Couples that drink the same amount often have a better chance of staying together. Mm-hmm. Couples that don't have a more likelihood of becoming separated or divorced.
Okay.
So that's a fact. Mm-hmm. That's how powerful alcohol is.
Well, I could see it not working if one of us was and the other wasn't.
I wasn't at a point where I was going to say, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. But like when you were getting smashed on Thanksgiving, I was like, oh man, this is hard because I'm smelling it. Mm-hmm. You're kissing me. You're bringing it around. It's in the house. Mm-hmm. And it was just there. It became accessible to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want it to be a part of my life, but I also didn't want to stop the relationship because I felt like there was going to be a change. I kind of knew it. I kind of saw it coming because I'd heard about their past. Mm-hmm. And I was actually pretty shocked that you were still drinking.
Oh.
Like I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow. I mean, her whole life has been destroyed by alcohol. Like
I was an alcoholic.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised but I also knew that there was a light at the, a light at the end of the tunnel where I was like, oh, this is going to work for her. Mm-hmm. She's eventually just going to she's going to see me living this way, happy, enjoying myself, not having to drink, not worried about it. I mean, I would prefer food any day.
Oh yeah. A good meal over alcohol. Absolutely.
And even now, like just the thought of it, when I see people drinking it on TV, I'm just like, oh, or in a movie, I see them just pretend like they're even pounding whiskey. And
I get the shudders. I'm like, oh, especially when they're doing it straight.
It's gross. It's gross.
Yeah, I can't do that.
But I will say you did a really good job stopping, and no AA, didn't need it. You just went right for it. You said, I'm going to quit, and you just stopped.
I had you, and then I also, just for your viewers to understand also my health issues, I have a few autoimmune disorders. And I knew I wasn't doing myself any favors trying to work out and get healthy. And I had this one illness that just really set my autoimmunity into overdrive.
That's bad.
While we first were together dealing with all these other things, I was really, really sick, and I really wanted to get back into a healthy place. And I knew that drinking wasn't going to get me there.
She's being really kind. Like when we first got together, we had people that were stacked against us that were attacking us 24/7. I mean, we did not have it easy. Nobody wanted us together. It was hard in the beginning, but we never wavered. Like the second we were able to get a place together, it happened. The second that she was cut off.
And that was also out of necessity.
Yeah, but I mean, she was cut off financially. The second that she was, dating me, every bit of help she ever had from anyone was just cut off. Mm-hmm. She just got ripped apart. A lot of my friends were always like, dude, just keep having fun, man. You got out of the last marriage. It's over. And
I think we were also really hesitant because we'd been through a lot. But I think what we went through bonded us because there were a lot of similarities laced through your story and my story, tons of similarities. And so we were able to be each other's rock in a sense. Mm-hmm. And then, the other things trickled down from that, I think.
I went to a rehab that was across the street from where we met to have that first dinner we talked about. Mm-hmm. And before I met her for that dinner, I walked over to that rehab. I drove over there and I walked up to the hallway. It was really a 70s funky retro
not
rehab.
In a good area.
It's not in a good area. It wasn't a good rehab. And I remember you telling me, oh my gosh, that's where my ex was going to go.
Yeah. Or it had been mentioned.
It had been mentioned. And he was like, I can't do that. It's not nice enough.
Yeah.
And this was one of those times in my life where I had always had means, but this time I didn't. Like when I got into that accident, I was living in a residence inn. I was a step away from homeless.
Yeah.
It was real close. Mm-hmm. And then when I got in that accident, it was like, well, where are you going to live? Rehab's looking good. I'd prefer that. So I was humbled, and I think that changed everything for me. I don't think I'd be in this relationship right now if I wasn't humbled at that time and able to say, I'm not the most important thing here. Mm-hmm. And so I think that kind of got you a little excited though, where you're like, that's really interesting.
I can't explain it because in the beginning, even though my brain was saying, this is boring. You've never done this before, like a non-drinker and a guy that doesn't party. Like, what are you guys going to do? What do you even have in common?
Yeah.
And for some reason, every step of the way, I always felt like there was something else telling me like everything's going to be okay. With you, for some reason, I've never dated anybody that made me feel this calm. Everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Even at times where I was like, how is this going to be okay? it just ended up being okay. And again, I had to do a lot of growing up and a lot of emotional, like we've been through a lot together.
Yeah, it really was sort of like stunted growth, I think, from the alcohol use and the partying. I think it does, like you said.
Oh, I was completely emotionally stunted. I had no idea how to be an adult and handle things in an adult way. And I even look at myself as being a child, even up until about 36, 37, because I just couldn't take responsibility for anything.
And confronting those difficult themes in your life that come up, and they look at you and they go, okay, I'm going to test you right now. A lot of times when you've used alcohol and drugs, you back away from those. And so you never grow because you never overcome that challenge that has been presented to you.
You go straight to the alcohol. It numbs you and you're like, okay, I'm fine now because I've had a couple of drinks.
You never deal with it though.
You never deal with it. And so I had like a Santa bag filled with emotional baggage and problems and stuff. And, I had to work through them all. And you're right. I didn't have rehab. I didn't have AA. I mean, you taught me some things, some coping mechanisms, some things that I was going to face, like, pause and, the pink cloud and all these terms that I'd never heard before.
You went through it all.
I did. But being on the other side and being almost 5 years sober now, you had told me, just wait until you get to 5 years. Yeah. And all of a sudden you have this, a moment where your head finally is exposed and you're. Yeah,
a lot of people have a hard time with that in recovery. I've got a lot of people that I know in the sobriety community that are 2, 3, 4 years sober, and they're trying to sell their sobriety. And no offense to you people out there that are trying to do that, but you do not know what you're doing.
And I would agree with that. Not from that standpoint,
you can't
but just
teach
myself, knowing what I went through. I didn't start really getting better until about a year ago. Emotionally. Yeah,
because it's the old saying in AA. I think AA is great. I think it's a bit antiquated. I think it could use an update. But the old saying that your head finally pops out at 5 years couldn't be more real.
Yeah.
That is the truth. Mine popped out. I was like, oh my gosh. One day I just saw the light and I went, I can never do that again. And that's because you spend those 4 years, and before you get to the fifth year, you start to see all the cycles in your life that you went through, and you start to break them. But it takes time to break all of those cycles that you've been in, because you've avoided them over and over again.
And then you actually discover who you really are. And that's been the neatest thing for me, is discovering who I am without, feeling the pressure. I mean, I've really allowed myself to not be around a ton of people, to not have a lot of outside influences. I got off of social media because I didn't want to compare myself to people. I don't really like social media that much anyways. From me putting myself out there, I'm pretty private. So this is actually a step in a different direction for me. But I didn't want a lot of outside influences. I just wanted a chance to be me. And I went to therapy. And after therapy, I really started to get more into our faith. And, Jesus has helped me so much in the Bible, and learning about, how I'm supposed to be as a Christian. That's been a huge, profound change in me as well. And I just feel like my growth now is just continuously expanding and getting bigger.
Yeah, I think there's a point where you it's just like Romans 1:16, and I won't go too far into the gospel, but, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. For it is the power of God through salvation for everyone who believes. When you're not afraid anymore, in that fifth year, you're not afraid.
No.
You become unafraid of life. Like, this is life. This is what's going to happen. Yeah, I wasted a lot of time, but here I am.
And the trivial stuff kind of melts away, and you're just real. You're just there.
And it feels really good to be present in the present moment, because you know that at any time you can be taken. And when you have that appreciation, that gratitude that comes in over time for life, when you start living it the right way. See, when you're living in, for lack of a better word, sin, for people to understand, when you're living a life that is not your own, that is not what is desired by a higher power, you are giving up that power, and you're living a life that's either in the past, what I did last night or the terrible things that I'm embarrassed about, or when's the party going to happen?
Yeah.
But you're never really here living in the present moment.
No.
And so I think that's where, you change the most is you used to have a lot of focus on the past when an event would happen and it would be tremendous. It'd be this thing that
I know exactly
was not
what you're thinking about too.
It wouldn't be that big a deal, but you'd be on the bed crying and you couldn't get out of bed. You were just a mess. And I'm like, this is just a little thing. Don't worry about it. Let's just go have some fun.
Yeah.
There's no reason to let this happen to you because this person is doing this for this reason and you are buying into this. And this was a cycle.
Yep.
And when you got sober,
the anxiety would come on and I would be frozen in anxiety. I would be incapacitated. And then I would get these little blips of depression. But anxiety has been something I dealt with my whole life. And to be honest with you now that I think about the 2 to 3 year mark, that started to become less and less and less. And now I never get anxiety. I get the tiniest bit. The tiniest bit, we're going to get on a plane and
but
sometimes planes
anxiety.
don't make me feel all that great. And I get a little, because I don't feel good or, a couple of times when I've had to appear in court for, various divorcee child custody things, that gets me a little icky because I have to deal with all of that stuff all over again. But then as soon as it's done, it's gone. Where before it would linger for days afterwards. I would just be and then it would take over my life. And now I'm just whatever.
Yeah, the obsession, you're able to lose that obsessing over what's going to happen because you know that you don't really have control over it. And then you also don't ever want to be in something secular again. You're like, I just need to just let go. Let's just let go. Because you're giving yourself trouble. But she really would in the beginning. I'm a
control freak. I was a control freak over everything. And it was the funniest thing because I was probably the most out of control person that was trying to be controlled that you could possibly imagine. And it just nipped me in the buns every single time.
But that's how alcoholics are.
It beat me up. And I needed to learn lesson after lesson after lesson in order to get to where I'm at right now. So if you're trying again or you've tried several times, don't give up. I mean, there were times where I just thought, I throw in the towel. I just would love a Xanax or give me a glass of wine and so I can get through this situation. But I was able to get through it. And then every single time I got through it, I got a little bit more under my belt, a little more confidence. And then now I'm like, who was that girl? How could I not take care of those things that I needed to take care of? And why did it destroy me in the way that it did? And now I feel like I can tackle almost anything.
So you're doing better.
Yeah, a lot better.
No, alcohol's a good thing.
Yeah, it's really been good.
Well, I'm glad you came on to talk today. I have no idea if you out there will find this impactful or helpful.
I hope so.
I thought it would be. And this won't be maybe the last time that I bring her in, maybe once a month, just to chat about sort of where we're at personally, how our life is, which we didn't touch on that, but we're pretty good.
Or maybe just, inspiring people to stick with it. It's really hard. And when I don't have a community of, 10 sober girlfriends that we all hang out and bounce ideas off of each other and that sort of thing. I have acquaintances, but I think
a lot of people believe they need that in the beginning. I think support is important.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Maybe this can be supportive for people that don't have a lot of support.
I don't want to say you don't need it. Because in the beginning I did. I needed the group support.
Hey, some of these videos that other people have put up, I've found inspiration about, maybe it wasn't even about alcohol. It was just sticking with something or, and that helped me that day or at that time in my life. So you never know.
The biggest thing I would repeat to her when she first got sober over and over again was, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I always tell her, the wisdom to know the difference. Yep. You're trying to control something. You don't have any control of it. It's going to drive you mad, sweetheart. She'd be like, but this, and she'd have all these theories.
But I'm not the control freak I used to think I was. I've let go of so much, and now I'm just like, okay, you're in the driver's seat. I'm just the passenger now.
You still want, nice. You still want answers for certain things that you maybe don't need, but you're getting to a place now where you're smooth. You don't have the same bumps you used to have, and you're close to 5 years, and now it's so smooth for both of us in our life.
We're rocking and rolling.
We get along pretty well.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have the big, blow up fights. We don't have we don't really like drama.
We've had disagreements, several.
Yeah.
And we've gone at it with each other. But I will say the one thing that I like about us is that we always take from that, learn from it, and grow. We don't go back and keep making the same. We never have the same argument.
No, we don't.
We've never had the same argument ever in our entire life.
No.
We have like these little things. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, okay, we worked that out. We're not going to go back there.
Yeah. And we don't have to go into depth about what we decided on, but we made something the core of our relationship to begin with. And we can go into that another time, but it really worked.
Maybe people want to tell us whether or not they want to hear that.
Yeah, maybe they can. So let us know if you want to hear what we did to sort of make this all work. But it's the background of everything. It's the centerpiece of our relationship, and it has brought us closer together. And the closer we strive to achieve that centerpiece and live like that centerpiece, the better we are.
Well, the better our whole family has been.
Yeah, everyone's been better.
Even the kids have benefited from all of this.
Right.
I think.
I do too.
All right.
Here we go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.